Welcome to Read in Minutes. Here's a short summary of the book, The Path to Power, by Robert A. Caro. If you enjoy it, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Now let's get started. The Path to Power is the first volume of Robert A. Caro's extensive biography of Lyndon B. Johnson, who served as the 36th President of the United States. In this meticulously researched book, Caro explores the early life of Johnson, focusing on his formative years, his unyielding ambition, and his rise to political power. The biography doesn't just recount events but delves into the nature of power itself, how it is sought, obtained, and used, both for personal advancement and public service. Caro combines vivid storytelling with a critical eye, crafting a narrative that presents Johnson in a multifaceted light. The book opens by examining Johnson's family, particularly his parents, Sam Ely Johnson Jr. and Rebecca Baines Johnson. His father, Sam, was a one-time successful Texas state legislator known for his honesty and progressive ideals. However, Sam eventually fell into financial ruin due to poor business decisions and his inability to adapt to the changing economy of rural Texas. This downfall had a profound effect on Lyndon, shaping his perception of poverty and instilling in him a fierce determination to avoid the same fate. On the other hand, Johnson's mother, Rebecca, was well-educated and came from a more refined background. She nurtured Lyndon's intellectual curiosity and ambition, teaching him the importance of education and instilling in him a belief that he could achieve greatness. Despite the cultural and financial limitations of their environment, Rebecca was determined to raise her children with a sense of refinement and aspiration. Caro details how the Johnson family lived in the Texas Hill Country, an isolated and rugged area where subsistence farming and ranching were the primary means of survival. This region's harsh conditions and widespread poverty deeply influenced Johnson, embedding within him both a deep empathy for the underprivileged and a desire to escape the hardships of rural life. As a child, Johnson experienced poverty firsthand, and these experiences would later fuel his political rhetoric as he positioned himself as an advocate for the poor. From a young age, Johnson displayed an intense drive for success. In high school and later at Southwest Texas State Teachers College, now Texas State University, he actively sought leadership roles, although not always through the most ethical means. Caro describes how Johnson, even in his youth, was known for his manipulative tactics and ability to work people to his advantage. Though not particularly distinguished academically, Johnson was determined to make his mark. His time in college was filled with efforts to gain influence and power, often leveraging his charm and networking abilities to compensate for his lack of scholastic achievements. Caro illustrates how Johnson was always acutely aware of the social hierarchies around him and was constantly striving to climb them. After college, Johnson took a job as a teacher in Cotulla, Texas, where he taught poor Mexican-American children. This experience exposed him to the harsh realities of poverty and racial inequality, further shaping his understanding of social justice. Though Caro acknowledges Johnson's genuine compassion for his students, he also suggests that Johnson's teaching career was part of a larger strategy to position himself as a man of the people, someone who understood and empathized with the struggles of the disadvantaged. This would become a central theme in his political career, as Johnson often portrayed himself as a champion of the poor, despite his deep desire for personal power. In 1931, Johnson moved to Washington, D.C., to work as a secretary for Congressman Richard Kleberg of Texas. Though the position was modest, Johnson quickly demonstrated his political acumen. He worked tirelessly, taking on responsibilities far beyond those required of him, and ingratiated himself with more influential figures in Washington. His ability to navigate the political landscape was evident from the start. Caro portrays Johnson as a master networker, someone who understood the importance of building relationships with powerful people. He befriended key political figures and influential businessmen, recognizing that these connections were crucial to his future ambitions. Johnson's work ethic was legendary, as he worked long hours, taking on additional duties, and making himself indispensable to his bosses. He was always in search of opportunities to increase his influence, constantly positioning himself for greater roles. One of the most important relationships Johnson formed during this time was with Herman Brown, a Texas businessman who owned the construction firm Brown and Root. This connection proved invaluable to Johnson's career. Brown and Root was seeking government contracts for public works projects, and Johnson, through his political connections, was able to secure these contracts for the company. In return, Brown became a financial backer of Johnson's political campaigns. This relationship, Caro argues, marked the beginning of Johnson's willingness to align himself with powerful business interests, even if it meant compromising his principles. It also underscores one of the key themes in the book, Johnson's use of power and influence to achieve his goals, often blurring the lines between public service and personal gain. In 1937, Johnson seized the opportunity to run for Congress in a special election for Texas's 10th district after the death of James Buchanan. This was a pivotal moment in Johnson's career, as he campaigned vigorously, using every resource at his disposal to win the election. Caro describes how Johnson worked relentlessly, traveling thousands of miles, meeting voters face-to-face, and employing innovative campaign tactics, such as the use of a helicopter, an unprecedented move at the time. Johnson portrayed himself as a loyal supporter of President Franklin D. Roosevelt and his New Deal programs, which were particularly popular in rural Texas during the Great Depression. He campaigned on promises to bring federal resources to his district, presenting himself as a man of the people who understood their struggles. His victory in the election marked the beginning of his national political career. Once in Congress, Johnson quickly became a staunch ally of President Roosevelt and aligned himself with the pro-New Deal faction. He was adept at working behind the scenes to ensure that his district received significant federal funding, particularly for infrastructure projects. One of his most significant accomplishments was his role in bringing rural electrification to Texas. At the time, much of rural Texas lacked electricity, and Johnson's ability to secure funding for this cause greatly increased his popularity. The project not only improved the lives of his constituents, but also solidified his image as a politician who delivered tangible results. Caro emphasizes that while Johnson genuinely worked to improve the conditions of rural communities, he was also motivated by the desire to build a political base that would support him in future elections. In 1941, Johnson ran for the U.S. Senate in a special election, but this time he met with defeat. His opponent, the colorful and populist Governor Papio Daniel, won the race by a narrow margin. This loss was a bitter blow to Johnson, who had expected to win. Caro portrays this defeat as a turning point in Johnson's career, as it taught him several critical lessons about the necessity of controlling every aspect of a campaign, from media narratives to vote counting. This Senate race marked the beginning of Johnson's ruthlessness in politics. Caro suggests that Johnson's defeat hardened him, making him more determined than ever to succeed, no matter the cost. Johnson learned that political power required more than just ambition. It required control, manipulation, and, when necessary, bending the rules. Caro's The Path to Power paints a complex and nuanced picture of Lyndon B. Johnson. It is a story of ambition, relentless work ethic, and the pursuit of power at all costs. Johnson's rise to power was not always admirable. Caro doesn't shy away from describing his manipulative tendencies, willingness to form alliances with powerful business interests, and his hunger for personal success. Yet, Johnson also possessed a genuine concern for the disadvantaged, as seen in his efforts to improve the lives of rural Texans through projects like rural electrification. Ultimately, The Path to Power reveals Johnson as a deeply ambitious man, driven by both a desire to help others and a desire for personal advancement. Caro's detailed exploration of Johnson's early years provides insight into the forces that shaped one of the most complex figures in American political history. Through his rise, Caro examines not just the life of Lyndon Johnson, but the broader themes of power, ambition, and the American political system.